Communication is key is a common phrase we hear all the time. However, there are conversations we tend to ignore and avoid as much as we can. Confrontations, opening up, and raising concerns are some of the things we tend to hold off as much as we can. Whenever we find ourselves in those situations, it's either we start arguing, feel intense emotions, or start doubting our identity. In difficult conversations, How to Discuss What Matters Most, the authors offer techniques on how to have effective and fruitful conversations. Here are the top 7 lessons from the book Difficult Conversations, How to Discuss What Matters Most, by Douglas Stone, Bruce Patton, and Sheila Heen. Lesson 1. Be curious. There is no absolute truth. Everyone has their own version of an issue or an event. Oftentimes, people start arguing before the conversation even takes place. Why? Because they can't agree on the facts of the matter. Surely it's frustrating when others can't understand each other's opinion. However, this is solvable. The authors suggest adopting the "and" stance mentality. This is when we acknowledge both our own views and the other party's views. Lesson 2. Check intentions. People like to assume, and sometimes it is safe to assume. But when our aim is to discuss issues and concerns, it's better to stay away from assumptions. Whenever we do this, we always base them off of our feelings. We sometimes think that since we're hurt, then the other party intended to hurt us. So to avoid these types of misunderstandings, we should check the other person's intentions. Staying open-minded about each person's interpretation and intention of the matter can do wonders for the discussions. Lesson 3. Avoid assigning blame. It's important to determine what each person did to contribute to a problem. However, this doesn't mean that we should focus on finding out who to blame whenever we have discussions. Making the conversation revolve around blame discourages fruitful conversations. Instead, we should acknowledge each person's contribution to the situation. Yes, even our own contribution. Healthy discussions don't only involve acknowledging the other party's mistake, but also admitting and understanding one's own wrongdoings. The authors also suggest implementing a role reversal to recognize each other's contribution to a problem. Lesson 4. Express emotions. Let's admit it, all difficult conversations are difficult because they involve emotions. That's why some people take on a route of emotional detachment when having difficult conversations. However, unchecked emotions and unresolved feelings will always create another hard discussion. To solve this, we should enter conversations when we have a clear understanding of what we're feeling. During the discussion, we should share each other's perspective and make the conscious decision to accept the other's emotions. Lesson 5. Practice self-awareness. Sometimes we avoid difficult conversations because they make us question ourselves. These discussions may threaten our view of ourselves as good, competent, and loving persons. However, it helps to remember that everyone makes mistakes. The sooner we acknowledge our contributions to an issue, the better we'll be able to handle difficult conversations. Sometimes difficult conversations can be too difficult. We can help ourselves by accepting the other's reaction to our actions. Don't forget that we can always take a break from difficult conversations when they get too hard. Lesson 6. Know when to let go. Yes, we should learn to raise difficult conversations, but there are times when we can just let them go. Although it's up for you to decide, the book does offer something to consider when making the decision. It's to ask oneself if it's a conflict between two persons or within oneself. If the issue stems from one's own identity crisis and doesn't aim to understand each other's perspective, to express one's own feelings and to solve an issue, then it's better not to have that difficult conversation. Whenever we decide not to raise an issue, the authors have a few reminders. First, we're not always responsible for fixing situations. The next is that other people have limitations. Third, we must learn to separate the issue from our own identity. And lastly, acknowledge that we can let go of the issue and still care about it. Lesson 7. Communicate effectively. Having the actual conversation is also a feat in itself. In having these, it helps to also make sure our words do not add to the fire. The authors offer 4 easy steps on how to carry difficult conversations. The first step is to start the conversation calmly. When the conversation is rolling, the second step is to then acknowledge the other person's perspective and emotions. However, it's also important to express ourselves, which is the third step. The last step is to remember that it takes 2 to agree. Map out the issue and discuss how to solve the problem together. Remember, we can't always control how the person will react. In conclusion, the book suggests that whenever we choose to have difficult conversations, it's vital to acknowledge each person's perspective, intentions, and feelings. One should always be willing to take the extra step to keep a relationship going. Difficult conversations are difficult, but by following the steps given by the authors, we can be strategic and rational whenever having these. How about you? How do you face difficult conversations? Tell me in the comments section. Thank you for listening. If you like the book summary and you want to see more in this category, please like and subscribe so I can create more. You can also get a free copy of the entire audiobook by clicking the link in the description. Until next time.